We had an election yesterday. There are plenty of takeaways. Not that I'm going to do much of that at all, but I do know this. Usually when I mention anything political, the text line blows up with, "Don't talk about politics," or a few F-bombs or something like that. And that usually means two things. One, we disagree and you don't like my point, so you just want me to shut up. Or two, you say something like some variation of "stick to sports." And then my response to both of those things is, and yes, there's a very much a sports angle to what I'm about to talk about. But I respond to those things by saying, you know what? It's true. I promise you it's true. I always welcome disagreement, but it would make the show better if you disagreed with substance. Why you specifically disagree would be a nice change of pace. That makes the show better. Just a blanket F you, or you have a Trump derangement syndrome, or whatever that term is you keep throwing back at me, that's pretty lame. I'm good at laying out my points. I think most of the time you need to do the same thing. The other thing about stick to sports that comes up, that's fine. You know, I mean, if that's really what you mean, then you can go and listen, watch whatever you want. I'm not that concerned about that. But that usually means when somebody says, "Oh, don't talk about that stuff," or "stick to sports," it usually means don't say something I disagree with, please. And my response is, you may have heard a few times. In other words, you want me to be like the shows you're not listening to. Okay, that out of the way. I think actually we might be able to agree on this political part of yesterday. And then there's a real bizarre twist that just pisses me off, and I'm mad that it doesn't make you mad. If you voted yesterday, that's good for you. Our voting system is amazingly secure, despite what politicians like to say when things don't go their way. And thanks to the people that work the polling places, you're pretty amazing, I think. I don't think many of us could do it and not go crazy throughout the day. So good for you. But our voting system is so antiquated and so inconvenient. And I think it's antiquated and inconvenient on purpose. I do. We should be voting online. Now, that said, I don't have the technical answer to that. I really don't. And another response is, but yeah, if we do that, hacking this, hacking that, whatever. But that's pretty much how we live our life. But I don't have the technical answer. But voting should be getting more convenient, not less convenient. And I think it's intentional. I do. And I'll add, we should adopt the rank voting system. Read about it sometime. It makes too much sense. It makes perfect sense. I think it's used in Nebraska, but that's something different. But I say voting is inconvenient on purpose because politicians don't want to answer to more of you. They used to say, I'm not sure they do this anymore, used to say, "Oh, we want more people turning out." That's not true. They want fewer people turning out. And I believe that's why the system is as inconvenient. And I know some of us do make the drive to wherever. We go to some obscure portable somewhere at some elementary school. We're going to do it. It's not the end of the world. But for generations of living our life online, it just seems like it should be far more convenient. And I think it's the way it is on purpose, because I don't think they want more of you to vote. And I don't care what letter's next to the name. I really don't. I think they want less of you to vote. They don't want more people participating. They want less people participating in the process. And they want voting to be basically target marketing. I mean, that's what politics has turned into. It's, you can take the 80-20 rule that you learned in whatever business class, and you can apply it pretty easily to politics, and that's exactly what they want. The demographic that helps fill in the blank candidate win election or re-election, since we've turned it into a professional career being in politics, that demographic is the only one they want to worry about. That's the only one they want to market to. They don't want more voices. They don't want more ideas. They don't want more disagreement. They want less. They want fewer voices, and they want those fewer voices to be in lockstep. So I think I think I say it every election cycle. I do the same rant. It's not going to change because politics don't change, because we don't force it to change. I believe it's as antiquated and inconvenient as it is on purpose. I find it hard to believe there's not a more convenient and sensible and interactive way to vote. And I think the reason why there's not is because those in the career of politics don't want that. Here's a weird setup. Does that segue into what we're going to talk about? I mean, a little, I guess. A little. I think Victor Wembanyama is a generational talent, and he might win multiple MVPs. Heck, I mean, we're only, six, 7 games in. You know, he could win it this year. I think he's going to win multiple MVPs. The Spurs organization are an amazingly smart franchise. They have been the great run of the New England Patriots, in a lot of ways coincides with the great run of the Spurs. They've been amazingly efficient, amazingly smart. They buy in. I think Greg Popovich belongs on the Mount Rushmore of coaches all time in all sports. What does any of that, and I know many of you would agree, it's hard not to agree. Whether you're a Spurs fan or not, doesn't matter. You have to admire the organization itself. What does any of that have to do with your tax dollars? You know what was so easy to predict? I mean, it was just, and I can predict it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20, it doesn't matter. The prediction is going to be the same, and that is the voters of San Antonio would agree to fund a new arena so a rich owner can get wealthier. You did it again. You do it all the time. And I challenge anybody to justify what you've done again. San Antonio has become, and I try to figure out a city that's done this as often, and one may exist. Buffalo could be up there maybe, but I don't think so. San Antonio has become the capital of sports corporate welfare in this entire country, and that is exactly what it is. I think corporate welfare, I think our participation in corporate welfare is one of the most ridiculous things we do as voters. I challenge, and have done it for decades, I challenge anybody to make an argument why you think it's a good use of your money, your neighbor's money, their neighbor's money, to give it to rich people. So they can assume no risk and you assume all of the risk. Because that's what this is. That's what you did last night in San Antonio. And you will do it again. It's corporate welfare, and you've sold that corporate welfare as somehow it's going to pay for itself. I guess that's how you justify it. I don't know. I don't even hear anybody argue anymore. I don't even hear any disagreement. But I think you think, or you've allowed someone to tell you, that it pays for itself. And that's a flat out scam. It's not true. It's a scam. But even if it were true, okay, even if it was a net zero, if you said, well, Jeff, we use our taxpayer money to build a new arena in another. You do this all the time in San Antonio. You do it all the time. You'll do it again. And I'm not pretending to have any influence. Trust me, I'm not. Given the election and given the turnout was so big in San Antonio and so big in so many places, it was a big turnout, I think, in San Antonio, but precisely because of this. And I guess you showed up to participate in corporate welfare. And that's awful. And I challenge you to justify it. But even if you didn't lose money on it, even if you didn't burn the money, you didn't give it to rich people, because that's what you're doing. But even if you somehow got your money back, you don't, but let's just pretend. For ethical reasons, okay, remove the money. And trust me when I tell you, you don't get it back. It's a loss. You made them wealthier, you not so much. But if you take out the money part, for ethical reasons, taxpayers providing money to wealthy people for wealthy people's benefit Please tell me why that's something you need to be doing. Because that's what it is. There is no other explanation. Stadiums, here's the thing. I don't even know if we're confused by this. I don't know what people are thinking. But stadiums, when you think about this, stadiums and arenas are not parks. We could debate, and we do it all the time in cities all across the country, and that's fine. You could debate whether you think it's a good use of your money, your neighbor's money, to build an additional park or something like that. But you do know if you do build that, that's yours. You get to use it. You have equity in your public parks. You have access. But when you build an arena for rich people, you don't get anything. You get nothing in return. You don't have access. You don't have equity. It's not the taxpayers' arena. You don't even get a soft drink or a Coors Light. So why do you do this? Again, you know, it's at a time when most economic indicators are negative in the wrong way, in many different ways, for the average American making an average wage. The voters of San Antonio, let's see, by a margin of 52-48, decided to tax people even more to build the Caterpillar family a new arena. Okay? The voters decided to assume the risk with no reward. If you want to disagree with me, go right ahead. I'd love to hear some sensible explanation why people keep doing this. And then complain about their taxes or complain about the cost of groceries. You know, stuff that matters. It's weird to me that people tell you, and we all have every right to do it. One of the things that came out of last night's election is, again, saying people are concerned about prices of goods and services and everything, which would make perfect sense. But you think about, you're worried about the price of goods and services, your everyday life. But you think nothing of paying more so the owner of a sports team can increase his or her net worth while risking very little to none. You get nothing in return. What were you told? Right? I mean, what did somebody tell you? Did they say, hey, guess what? You get to go to 4 games free? I bet not. It was a record turnout reportedly in San Antonio, and I assume largely because, I could be wrong, but assume largely because of this arena initiative was on the ballot. The voters have spoken. You can't say, you can't blame the owner for this. You can't. You had a chance. You had a chance to say no. I mean, that is a beautiful thing. You can say, I'll spend more or less in my taxes. So you're going to end up funding, I think it's something like 85 or 90% of the total cost of this new arena. Why does anyone ever question this? I don't even know if there's political debate. Is there political debate ever? But Jeff, I'll make it up for you. I assume this is probably stuff people say. But Jeff, it's for development. Okay. I'm sure wherever this arena is going to go, probably downtown somewhere, because the average pitch to taxpayers is we're going to redevelop fill-in-the-blank area, typically downtown. Okay, so let's just say some stores pop up around the arena. What does that have to do with the taxpayer? What? Do you get free merchandise at the stores around the arena that you fund? I bet not. I bet if you walked in and said, you know what, I get 2 shirts because I agreed, I voted for this, and we're raising my taxes for this, so I need 2 free shirts here because it's all about the development. You don't get anything. Does anyone ever say it on what I'm about to say? And what's your response to this? You pay or you make your neighbor pay, and you get nothing in return. You don't get a ticket. You don't get a Wembanyama jersey. Those are expensive and probably getting more expensive. You don't get a Coors Light. You don't get a parking space. In fact, you end up paying for all those things in addition to paying for the arena. Why do you do that? Why do you keep doing it? because we can just cut and paste exactly what I'm saying today. And I'm sure I've said it 3 or 4 other times when you've decided in multiple cities to build new arenas and new stadiums for rich people. Okay? You don't own equity in that franchise. This is theirs, but you still do it. And then what I guess you hear a lot or want to say back to me, but Jeff, they'll leave. No, they won't. You know how we know they won't? Because no one ever says no. Leave. Leave. Now, I will admit, the Spurs would come to Austin in a heartbeat. Absolutely. But guess what? You know why they won't? Because the people of Austin, the Austin taxpayer, for all the terrible things you may think about us, the Austin taxpayer is not going to do what you've done again. And that is reduce or minimize or wipe out their risk, and you assume all of it for nothing. Would they go somewhere else? Well, but Jeff, the Spurs may go somewhere else. I doubt it. But if they did, so what? How can you then reconcile being as dumb as other taxpayers that want to do this? Why wouldn't the answer be, listen, man, I'm paying enough in taxes. I don't need to give away any more. If those of you in fill in the blank want to do that, that's your issue. I can watch the games on TV because that's what you're doing anyway. Okay? You're watching them on TV anyway. Nothing will change. I'm not pretending to have any influence. It's one of the most amazing things that has happened repeatedly. And there is no data to back up that there is any benefits. You're going to employ 52 people for part-time jobs selling cotton candy and Cokes 40 weeks out of the year. It is not hiring more people. It is not having an economic impact. It isn't doing anything except making wealthy people wealthier by giving them more luxury boxes to sell. That's why they want it. And you keep falling for it. And I don't know why. It's a sincere question, but also a legitimate disagreement I have with a lot of you, and I've never understood it. Hey, here's a recommendation backed up by my own experience, a great experience. And that is, I've been a client of DJC Law, and I can tell you this. You're going to get 3 things with DJC Law. You'll notice it right away. The difference is you will get peace of mind. They will take care of every single detail perfectly, and you will get the result you deserve. If you're injured by the negligence of someone else, fighting with an insurance company for any reason, trust me when I tell you, you will need DJC Law. Dan Christensen and his team of attorneys have a remarkable track record. I've known Dan a long time. He's a military vet. He's board certified in civil trial law, and I've been a client. So you can trust them. You will get the result you deserve. Check out teamjustice.com, and you'll see thousands of 5-star reviews. The bottom line is, if you're in an accident, you need DJC Law. Contact them right away. 512-888-9999.